Hello everyone and welcome back to Russell's Movie Reviews, the show where I review stuff that's supposed to be pretty good and maybe one of the best movies of all time, or a film that absolutely sucks and should remain in the depths of hell. And welcome to the final part of my Cars trilogy. Um, Thursday I discussed Cars 2, and I was originally intended to discuss Cars 3 on Friday. But unfortunately some family stuff got in the way, so I had to delay it till today. So sorry for the delay, but I'm getting the video out now. So, like I said, Thursday we discussed Cars 2, and now we're discussing what's currently the final film in the Cars trilogy, which is Cars 3, which came out on June 16th of 2017. Um, I don't know. I'm just gonna get this out of the way real quick. I don't know if they're going to do a Cars 4. Um, I think this was overall. I think this was the best received out of the trilogy. In terms of money, I think this made. I think this is the least amount it made. Um, and so yeah, I don't really know if they're going to make a Cars 4, but if they're not, then this is currently the final film in the Cars trilogy, which both kind of disappoints me and I'm glad by. It kind of disappoints me because this film, I'm not gonna say what the ending is, but it kind of does lend it somewhat to having a fourth film. But if it isn't having one, I'm kind of glad as well because uh, sometimes films that go past the three films kind of start getting bad. So um, maybe it's a good thing. But yeah, so um, my history with this film is actually kind of a little bit more personal than any of the previous films. I actually did see this one in theaters. Um, I actually did watch it like the weekend it came out. And when I first watched it, I quite enjoyed it. Uh, I thought it was a significant step up from the lackluster second film. Even though I still liked the second film at the time, I still thought that it was not so good compared to the original film. Whereas this film, I thought could was a very good matchup to the first film. And over the years, as I continued to watch it on Blu-ray, um, I still think it's better than Cars 2, but it slowly kind of got worse and worse. Not massively, but there were some things about it when I rewatched it I was like, oh, I didn't notice that before, but now it's kind of changing my opinion on it. But I still think that this is still my second favorite out of the Cars trilogy. But with that out of the yeah, just to like I actually did see this one in theaters. Um, I mean, I would love to see the original film in theaters. Um, but if it doesn't happen, then I'm glad that I saw this one in theaters because this is probably the closest thing I'm gonna get to that. Um, but enough with that out of the way. Let's get on to the review itself. So this was made on a budget of 175 million. Domestically, it only made 152 million, and worldwide, it made over 383 million. So kind of like the last film, domestically, this was kind of a bomb. But worldwide, it was a success. But I think it made about $200 million less than the sequel, and about 100 million less than the original. So actually, let me check this out real quick. Uh, yeah, pretty much about a $100 million less than the original, and about 200 million less than the sequel. So um, I I guess that kind of it kind of sucks because this is probably uh I think I can't really say that this is better in my personal opinion. I can't say that this is better than the original. Uh, because there are some things about it where I kind of don't like. Um, but I also really like it a lot. So uh, it's very difficult for me. Um, and this was directed by Brian Fee instead of John Lasseter, who directed the previous two, because I think by this point he was either not doing very well mentally, or because I'm gonna state this right now. Sometime between 2015 and I think about 2020, I forgot what the exact year was, but after a lot of pretty much BS from Pixar, from inside of Pixar, John Lasseter left the company. One of the co-founders of Pixar kind of just he left, and his legacy will be remembered in all the films that he either directed or had a major part in. Um, I think it was happening around the time that this film came out. I don't exactly know, but it is a real shame that he's no longer a part of the Pixar company. I think he's still around, but this is sucks that you know that core like part of the company itself is no longer there. Um, and um, I'm not saying that this film is uh, badly directed because it wasn't directed by John Lasseter. Um, I think it's directed very well. But it kind of shows that by this point, not really some films they kind of suffered from it, but it wasn't really the films that were some of the time that were really suffering. It was more the company itself. Um, but I can go into a whole story about that. But anyways, let's get on to the plot. So, blindsided by a new generation of blazing fast cars, the legendary Lightning McQueen, again played by Owen Wilson, finds himself pushed out of the sport that he loves after a near fatal accident. Hoping to get back into the game, he returns. He turns to Cruz Ramirez, played by Christina Alonso, an eager young technician who has her plans for winning. With inspiration from the fabulous Hudson Hornet and a few unexpected turns, number 95 prepares to compete on Piston Cup's racing's biggest stage. Now, like I said, I love the fact that you know, they brought it back to racing. Um, I feel like that, that's really what the second film was missing. Even though it did as I mentioned in the previous review, I feel like that Cars 2 has two separate plots trying to that are going along at the same time, but also fighting to see like who's going to be the main plot to focus on. And it really just came down to the spy film aspect being the main focus, while the racing part was just kind of shoved aside. Which um, does I feel that Cars is a racing film, like it's a racing genre, not a spy genre. Um, which is why I feel like that film suffered a lot. But luckily, this film returns to the whole racing aspect, which I do appreciate. Um, and I love the fact that they didn't go along with the same. They did some of the same beats as the original, but not all of them. This time, you know, McQueen isn't, finding like he already like. I feel like that his character by this point has aged a lot, uh, both like mentally and physically. Um, like he's progressed as a character so much that he's like, um, I mean, yeah, he still wants to be in the spotlight, but he knows when his time is done. Uh, in terms of like actually like racing, um, which is why I feel like in this film, I don't think they would necessarily say it, but I feel like that this film is what McQueen thinks is his like he wants this to be his magnum opus, like his final race is his biggest one. After the near fatal crash, which is one of the best shot uh, scenes in any Pixar film. in the recent years and ever really, in my opinion, is his race where uh, I think it's a comment that um, I'm just gonna talk about the scene right now because this is actually one of my favorite scenes. Uh, they're racing, like McQueen's racing, and I think, I think he's in first place, and then Jack Storm who comes up, who's played by, actually I'm gonna say that, Jack Storm, who's basically the villain for the film, basically comes up and I forgot exactly what it says, but it kind of just hits McQueen like right there, and it starts, you know, like like the cars start passing him, and even you can hear like the announcers going, he's fading fast, and he's like, no, and he starts driving, and you see him like he's about to explode or something, and you keep on cutting to his eyes, and then to like the engine, and then to the tire, and then you feel like he's gonna do it, and all of a sudden, bam, that tire just pops, and he starts losing control, and then he just rams right into that wall and goes flying into the air. And then you have that glorious shot, even though from the teaser, which is different from the teaser because the teaser was shot like the scene's happening during the day, while in the film it's happening at night. But you have this. It's a very beautiful shot of McQueen like spinning around, and then all of a sudden you just see it, bam, and he just starts skidding across the road, and he just starts spinning, which kind of reminds you of how the King crashed in the first film, because if you remember, he hits the wall and then he goes flying into the air and he starts spinning on the grass, and then he stops and is just a burnt out wreck, or not burnt out, but he's a wreck. Same thing almost the exact same thing happens to McQueen in this film, which I actually just picked up on that on the most recent viewing. Um, so, and then I think it cuts to, I think 3 months later. Um, and you see McQueen is just like it's just like his, like he doesn't have like the race livery on. It's just him, bare car. And I think that's one of the more emotional scenes where he goes and looks at um, like he puts on the camera and he watches his old, like Doc's old footage of his racing, and uh, basically the same thing happens to Doc as happened to McQueen, and the rail stops and you kind of just see him, you know, kind of realize that like this is probably the end for him. Um, but then he ultimately does make that decision, saying, and probably like my favorite line throughout the whole film is just him going, "I decide when I'm done," which is like, oh, fuck yes, we're back, baby. Um, but yeah, um, but yeah, like really, it's just like this film. I feel like it has way more beautiful shots, which I'll mention throughout the review. Um, so like the previous review, I'm not gonna mention all the previous cast members. Like all like the returning cast members, because it's basically all the same as the previous film. Um, so I'll be mentioning only the new characters that pop up. So we obviously have Cristela Alonso as Cruz Ramirez, who is uh, the new kind of sidekick for McQueen, but this time she actually has a more active role throughout the film. Um, we have Armie Hammer as Jackson Storm. Um, I feel like that he's a better villain than Professor Z or Miles Axelrod from the second film, but I don't think he's as actually probably a little bit better than Chick Hicks, because he kind of makes a more lingering presence throughout the film. Uh, and it. I feel like that Cruz, I mean, not Cruz, Jackson Storm actually kind of looks a little bit better than Chick Hicks, because I mean, granted, uh, Chick Hicks is played by the fantastic Michael Keane, but I always get those two mixed up. Jackson Storm is like a newer kind of car, because I feel like that in the first film, both Chicks or the Chick Hicks and Lightning McQueen are about like the same kind of car, whereas the King is like a more or older one. Um, Why and in this film, Jackson's the more like new advanced kind of car, where Lightning McQueen is kind of like the old one, and they kind of play up the fact that it could be coming to McQueen's end in terms of actual racing. Um, and they kind of play up that fact. So I do like the fact that this film kind of plays up the aspect of growing older and possibly not being able to race again, because it was probably going to be inevitable at some point to bring up that kind of topic. So I feel like that how they did it in this film was really good. We have Nathan Fillion as Sterling. Kind of like in Cars 2, they have the main villain, which is in this film Jack and Storm, and in the previous villain, or in the previous film, it's Miles Axelrod. And in this film, they have kind of like a secondary, or in both films, they have kind of a secondary villain. Whereas the previous film, it was an actual like villain in Professor Z. This one, it isn't really a villain, but it's more just like an annoyance kind of. Sterling is the new owner of Rust-eze, which is the company that Lightning sponsors in his race or in his races, um, and even like Sterling is like basically telling him like your time is over. I just basically like he doesn't say it directly, but he's like I just want to use you as marketing. You don't have to race. I'm not going to let you race. But all we're gonna use you for is marketing, like advertising, shit like that. Which kind of goes against McQueen's plans because he obviously wants this to be either like he wants to continue racing or let this be his final race. Um, I think the character's fine. It just seems more of an annoyance than like an actual like villain. We have Kelly Washington as Natalia Sertan, or Certain. Uh, Fine. I honestly don't really remember what her character was. I think she was one of the like one of the news reporters, or like one of the hosts of some like news broadcast. I forgot exactly what her character was, but um, yeah. We have Lewis Hamilton as Hamilton, who is um, because the aspect or like how McQueen kind of trains in this film is uh, with this program called who Cruise names Hamilton. So it basically tracks your basically it tracks your speed, and stuff like that. He's like really a minor character because he only has like in terms of voice, like I mean, yeah, because really he is a voice. He doesn't pop up as a character really, physically. He's just a voiceover kind of thing. He only really appears in like a few scenes and kind of. I guess if you really want to be kind of funny about it, gets killed off. But um, yeah, like I'll mention it when I get to my favorite scenes. But he kind of gets you know removed out of the film in a certain way, which I think feel like is a really nice way. Um, we have actually Chick Hicks returns to the film, but instead of being played by Michael Keaton, this film he's being played by Bob Peterson. Um, it's noticeable that it's a different actor slightly, but he does fine. And then we have Chris Copper, Junior Johnson, Elia Whitlock, and Margot Mittendale. I'm so sorry if I butchered any of those names. As Smoking Eunuch, Junior Midnight Moon, River Scott, and Lewis Nash, who are the four cars that kind of help McQueen and Cruz train and are friends of Doc. and they are all fantastic. Um, so yeah, so really to talk about favorite scenes, I already mentioned my first one was Lightning's initial crash at the beginning because it's so beautifully shot. My second favorite scene is a little bit down the way, about when the training on the beach, which is actually used as the cover art for this particular Blu-ray edition. You see, like the sand, and then like the little like bridge in the background. I know you can't. It doesn't really pop up on camera, or you kind of see it now, but you can see like the little bridge in the background and stuff like that. Um, because I think that was one of the original training spots for Doc. So yeah. My third favorite scene would have to be when I think Lightning initially finds because I think how Lightning and Cruz meet Smokey is they're training on a track that Doc used to train on. And Lightning has the lead on Cruz. And they're racing, and then all of a sudden, you see this car in the distance. You can't see what exactly it is. It's really nicely silhouetted. Uh, but you see him, and he's like, "Oh shoot!" And he slams on the brakes, and he comes like about like an inch in front of him, and the camera kind of pans up, and it's Smokey. It's either that or they actually meet them at the bar. Or actually, no. I think it's they know that they stop in front of him, and then he's like, "Okay, meet me at this place at this time." And they're like, okay then." And then so they go to this like kind of country bar area. And then they find the four characters with like Smokey, Midnight Moon, River Scott, and Louise Nash. Uh, and then my next favorite scene, which is overall like it's if I had to choose like one specific favorite scene, it's either the crash at the beginning or this scene right here when um Smokey is talking to McQueen about what happened to Dog, like how he knew him. He said like I forgot what I think it's like um the crash I forgot the line was, but it was like the crash cost him racing, or like no, the crash broke his body, and the no racing broke his heart, so he went to Radiator Springs. But then he was like, and I lost contact with that sucker for like I think he said like nearly 20 years. I forgot what the exact date was, but it was like I haven't talked to him for a very long time. And then the letters came in, and he opens up this garage door, and you see all of these letters with pictures of with him and McQueen, and he said, and every single last one was about you. And he said he loved racing, but his favorite part about racing was training you, and that struck a chord in my heart. And then especially when you see the flashbacks to uh, before he what happened to him, which I'm gonna discuss later on. But like you see like the flashbacks of him. I forgot what the order was. I think it was. Um, I think actually wait. Um, I know that the. I forgot what the first shot was, but I know that the one after that is McQueen driving off the cliff and into the cactus. And then it's McQueen in the garage that you see in the first film where he finds the Doc's piston cups. Um, and it's Doc. They trying to balance like all these things on his head, and then they all fall over and starts laughing. And then the final cut, is to them racing on the track. Uh, and McQueen passes him, and you see Doc laughing, and it cuts back to the photo. And then you just zoom in on McQueen's eyes, and he drives out, and all you hear Smokey is, "Are you ready to train?" "Yes, sir." And that scene always, literally, the first time I watched this, it made it made me start tearing up because that scene is emotional. It really is for me personally, because I don't want to get too personal, but I never really had a like a true father figure except for my grandpa or my grandfather, and he uh, he passed away a few years ago, and seeing that scene in the theater kind of made me feel like that was like me and him, like I was McQueen and he was Doc, and that kind of that made me start tearing, like it made me start crying, and so that's probably like my favorite scene besides the initial crash at the beginning. Um, and my final favorite scene is the final race because really that whole set piece is amazing, and I love the twist that happens in like the middle of the race or like near the end of the race. I'm not gonna spoil it for people who haven't seen it, um, but uh, the twist I think is very good, and the ending overall after the race is done is very good, very good. And um, I'm not gonna tell you guys yet. I'll let you guys know what the ending is in a little bit. Um, but yeah, like the whole ending, I feel like is great. Um, to really quickly talk about releases before I get onto the ending and what everyone really talks about when they talk about this film, what happened to Doc Hudson. I'll get to those in a little bit, but before that, I want to talk about releases of the film. So there's obviously the standard Blu-ray editions of the 4K and the DVD and stuff like that. But I believe Best Buy got a exclusive steelbook. I don't I don't know if Walmart got anything. I don't think they did in terms of exclusives. But Target got this kind of little digibook. Um, so there is the front. I don't have the original version to compare it to, but oh yeah. So there is the front. There's the side. Actually, I'm gonna grab a. Yeah. So this to show you the size length. There is a regular sized Blu-ray, and there is the digibook. Very noticeable change. But yeah, there's the spine, and then the back. I feel like they could have done something a little bit better on the back instead of just being Lightning and Jackson, and then just having this kind of white background. I feel like they could have done something a little bit better, like a little bit more colorful. But anyways, and then you open it up, and then there's the glare. There is the um, I don't know how that's coming out. There's the regular Blu-ray disc, which has the feature film, and then one thing I don't get what why Disney does this exactly is their quote unquote digibooks aren't really digibooks. They're uh was no but some of them are they get behind the scenes details. But most of them like in recent years or like in the past couple years they just been storybook versions of like the film, and they go over all of the core like details of the film and stuff like that. And yeah, and then they're back here they have the bonus disc or the bonus Blu-ray disc, and then the DVD. So yeah, but um yeah, that's really about it. But yeah, now to talk about the ending. So obviously the race, and then McQueen realizes the the key part because he starts losing, uh, and then he realizes that the part like he's not he isn't able he's not able to finish beat Jackson Storm, so he calls on a yellow car, and that car is Cruz Ramirez because he realizes that basically both um um well I basically thought that like he just chose them because or chose Cruz because of she's basically the like a newer car than him, and she's probably around the same. She probably has like the same engine and like same internal components as Jackson Storm, so she would be a more um, a better match to race him. But the reason that he gives, I feel like because there's a scene earlier after a scene that I don't really like too much, which I'll just mention it real quick. My least favorite scene is the demolition derby sequence, and I just feel like uh, that whole sequence was so pointless, except for one part, and that is when because Cruz is eventually uh because I just feel like that sequence is so pointless just to show like Lightning McQueen needs to stay out like if besides like before the race he needs to be like hidden. So what did they do? They just cover him in mud. So but yeah, Cruz wins the demolition derby. McQueen's like pissed off because he's like this is not what I needed to do. Um and Cruz is like I finally got reward for something, and then I forgot exactly what happens, but basically the trophy breaks. Actually, no. Before that, Cruz tells the story about how she always wanted to get a shot at racing, but she never got to. She never got the chance, and she felt like that this demolition derby was her one and only opportunity, and then the trophy shatters, or like, it breaks on the floor, and then she starts driving away, and then that's when McQueen realizes like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Um, but then at the race, the line that she delivers before she goes out is, you wanted an opportunity. Well, I'm giving it to you right now, basically. And she's like, all right, fuck yeah, let's go. And then she just takes off like immediately, like down the track. Um, and then because Smokey was initially like the person they talking to the race like McQueen, and then to Cruz, but then McQueen gets up there and he's like, okay, you just need to do this, this, and this, and then she does this like great ass because Jackson like kind of smash it, like doesn't smash her, but like he gets up against her wall and gets her track and starts just like skinning the side of her paint, or the side of her, and then she jumps onto the side and it does like this flip, lands on her wheels, and then takes off and then wins, which is cleverly foreshadowed because when earlier they were talking about a race that Doc did, they show him racing and it was like this new car, and this new car had Doc pinned, and he does the exact same maneuver and wins. And so now Cruz did that, or does this and wins. So that kind of is like, um, you know, uh, like they all start celebrating, and then McQueen finally realizes that like, hey, maybe me actually racing is over, but me in the racing world, it's not over. Um, and then the final sequence is she gets hired by she becomes a car for Dynaco, and we see and people are and like the people at Radiator Springs are like, hey, who's gonna train you? And Lightning McQueen comes out in Doc's color and livery. Um, but obviously, or I think his number is actually 51. But instead of Fabulous Hudson Hornet, it's Fabulous Lightning McQueen, which great attention to detail. And then they start driving off, and that's where the film ends. And then we roll for the credits of their future like their future races and all like the stuff that happens between them. Great ending, which this is kind of the reason why I feel like that if they're not gonna make a Cars 4, this is why I feel like they it's fine, because this sequence of like them going through the pictures over the end credits is uh, why they shouldn't do it, because they already detailed like the points after. The only way that you could really, I guess, say like continue on is you know having something happen to Cruz and then continuing the story from there and developing something. But I feel like that you shouldn't really do that. But again, I don't know. I don't really know what's gonna happen to the Cars universe after this film. And yeah, so uh, I guess fun fact is that I probably shouldn't have moved that. Um, my fun fact is even though Doc Hudson has make several appearances throughout the film, Paul Newman didn't actually record new lines specifically for this film. Obviously because he had died by this point. He's been dead for by this point. I'm just gonna assume that it was around 2016, so about 8 years by this point. So, um, they, uh, I think they actually discussed this on like one of the special features. Is that they had, when they were filming or when they were doing the voices for the first Cars film, they just had Paul Newman just go on with like lines and like stories, and like they got like several hours worth of recordings, and a lot of some of that was used for this film, and so I really like it that they decided to use uh, you know actual voice recordings from Paul Newman himself instead of hiring a you know a voice actor to sound like Doc for the flashback scenes. Um, and I feel like that was great on their part. And I guess finally, before we get on to the end card, again the music as is done by Randy Newman, who didn't return for the second film. Instead, it was done by Michael Gugiaro. So sorry if I butchered that last name. Um for the second film, which I thought that the score was mediocre, they brought him back for this film, and as usual, the score is fucking fantastic. Not as good as the original, but near perfection. Um, I don't know if there was a soundtrack release for the film. There might have been, but I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, the score fantastic. Um, so final thoughts on Cars 3. This I've already mentioned that this is personally my second favorite out of the Cars trilogy. Uh, I feel like this is better than Cars 2, but not as good as the original. Um, so because there's a few points throughout the film, like the demolition derby sequence and uh, really most of the lines from Sterling that kind of just make me cringe. That's why I don't think this is a perfect film, but it's near perfection. Like really everything else about the film is great, which is why, um, I'm gonna give this film an A minus. Near perfection, but just slightly missed the mark. So, hope you guys enjoyed my series of Cars reviews. I hope you guys enjoyed this series. I'm gonna take a week-long break before doing the next marathon, which is going to be on the Gamera films, specifically the Showa era Gamera films, which is basically all the films on these two volumes I'll be discussing for the next few weeks. Really quickly, the schedule, which I'm gonna go a little bit over when I review Gamera the Giant Monster. Um, is I'm going to be reviewing 2 per week. I'm going to be first week Gamera the Giant Monster on Monday, and then Friday Gamera versus Barugun. The next week I'm going to be reviewing Gamera versus Gauss on Monday, and Friday I will be reviewing Gamera versus Virus, and then the week after that Gamera versus Giran on Monday, and Gamera versus Jiger on Friday, and then the week after that Gamera versus Zigra on Monday, and Gamera Super Monster on Friday. And then after that, it will be the consistent Saturday release dates. Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, guys, we're gonna take a week-long break from video making on this channel. I will still be making content for the Big Five channel, and and we will still be uploading on that on hopefully a consistent basis. And so yeah, next week or for this next week, I'm gonna be taking a week-long break. But then the week after that, on Monday, we're gonna be starting the Gamera Marathon. So anyway, guys, you can click over here to click on my face, or go down to the name down below to click to go to my channel, and make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon to get notified when future videos are coming out. And click over here, I believe, or it could be the opposite way, on the previous on featured videos. So anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for the Gamera Giant Monster review. Live long and prosper. Out.